Hey, good afternoon. Obviously, an opportunity to get back at home, playing for our home crowd. We've had tremendous environments here and support throughout the season, and obviously expect another great crowd here as we get a chance to honor the 1998 SEC West Division Championship team. And we even got one of the former players who works on our building still, Rod Gibson, in recruiting. I also believe Coach Jackie Sherrill's going to be back here with the team as someone who has been extremely kind to me and offered me many words of wisdom and advice on being a head coach here at Mississippi State. So excited to see him back here and excited to see that team get honored. I know we're wearing special throwback uniforms, matching what they wore that season. Obviously, have a tremendous opponent coming in here, Kentucky. You know, coming off a stretch here where they've played about as difficult a 3-game stretch as I bet you any team in the country, and playing, you know, number 1, number 14, and number 19 ranked teams in the AP poll. I cannot say enough about Coach Stoops, what he's accomplished there, the respect and admiration I have for their program. I mean, they know exactly who they are. They're physical, incredibly fundamentally sound. Running back, leading the league in rushing, just about 103 yards a game. He is as electric of a back that I've seen all year. He is as explosive of a runner that Will faced up to this point. Quarterback's coming off a tremendous game. Leary, obviously, we faced him once already when he was at North Carolina State. I mean, he's got a big arm. He can make all the throws. They got really talented guys on the outside. And then they've consistently every year been at in the upper echelon of the league defensively. Fundamentally sound, play with tremendous effort, physical, and so we know we got a heck of a football team coming in here. Like I said, respect everything they're about and the way they play the game. So it should be a great matchup. Hopefully we have a great environment here. Again, we're honoring the 98 West Division champs, and so should be a tremendous environment. Should have great support here. With that, I'll open up to questions.
Coach, after reviewing the film outside of the outcome itself, what were you most disappointed with in Saturday's effort?
I was obviously go both sides of the ball there. I mean, defensively, disappointed with the execution in the first half. Obviously got shredded pretty good. I think I had 300 yards offense in the first half, and just never really got off the field other than maybe one drive where we had them, special teams pin them down there, you know, inside the 15, and I think we did get a 3-and-out there. So didn't execute well enough in the first half. Let the game get away from us too much, and then by the time we started really turning on and playing pretty good, the game was too far out of hand, and time becomes your biggest enemy. Then offensively, you know, when you're without your starting quarterback and starting tailback, you know, points are going to be a little tougher to come by. But either way, you get trips inside the red zone, you got to find a way to come away with touchdowns. It's very difficult to win in today's game of football, kicking field goals. Obviously, that takes a special defensive performance, and we were not playing that well on Saturday. And so you got to find a way to convert red zone trips into touchdowns.
John?
Do you think there's any chance we could see Chris Parson at quarterback?
Yeah, I think there's a chance.
Given that he could maybe start over Mike Wright if Will was out, or do you think it would still be Mike Wright in that event?
I think it's Monday, and I don't think it's in my best interest to talk about you know, all the specifics of the game plan.
I believe on your radio show a couple weeks ago when Dick Buckus died, you had mentioned showing the team film of him just for motivation or whatever. I'm just curious if you were planning on dusting off any highlight tapes of the 98 team.
I didn't.
This weekend.
I don't think I actually showed you film. You know, it was all over TV that day and social media, obviously, for obvious reasons. What a great player he was. Yeah, we may. Again, with Rod Gibson being in the building every day, probably give him an opportunity to, you know, talk about that team or something. But obviously, first and foremost, the number one job is just making sure we're preparing for what is needed to be done and covered to be prepared to play our best this week. You would hope, though, you would hope your guys want to play well and put on their best performance when you got a lot of them greats coming back and one of the best teams in school history.
Coach's series with Kentucky's been kind of favoring the home team here in the last several years. What
Hope it
makes it
continues.
so, what makes it so difficult to, number one, play in Lexington, but also too, for opponents to come in here and get out of here with a win?
Well, I think both places got great environments, great support from their respective fan bases. It's always tougher to play on the road, because you have to deal with crowd noise and potential distractions and everything that just comes with traveling. But at the end of the day, game of football comes down to execution, right? And which team executes the best and puts together a full game for 4 quarters and 60 minutes. And so hopefully we're prepared to do that.
Anything else?
What'd you think of Xavier last week, and how have you kind of seen him grow?
I think I said post-game, I think he was certainly on our team the most explosive player with the ball in his hands on Saturday. I know he had over 100 yards received, I think 9 catches for something like 112, I think was right around there. First play of the game was a tremendous catch there to get that outstretched arms and get his toe down there for completion. I thought we had some really creative ways of getting him the football. Not everyone was just on a drop back pass or play action. There was a couple in there from some unique alignments. These, kind of diverting to Kentucky a little bit, but they do a tremendous job of finding unique formations, splits, ways to get their guys the ball. I think that's what you saw in our game plan to Xavier, and obviously that'll be a big emphasis, the rest of the years. When you only get so many snaps, the way the clock rules are kind of working out this year, depending on how your opponent plays too. Certain games, you don't get as many snaps as the other, right? And when you find yourself in a game where, 60 to 65 snaps and a little bit more limited possessions, you want to make sure you maximize every single one you can and get the ball in your most explosive player's hands. And so he's obviously proven to be one of our most explosive guys with the ball in his hand. Obviously, it's no surprise. You see that the way he returns punts. I mean, even going back to last year. And so we're going to continue to find creative ways to get him his touches.
There's a report yesterday that Auburn knew y'all's signs. Do you think that was happening, or what are your thoughts on that?
What side of the ball are you talking about?
Offense.
I mean, if my recollection serves me right, I think in the first half, we had 122 total yards of offense, and that's 4.9 yards of play. In the second half, we had 223 yards of offense, 5.9 yards per play. I think 75, 76 rushing yards in the first half, 108 rushing yards in the second half. I guess I would have to let you come to your own conclusions and determinations from that report. I tend to let the facts speak for themselves.
Joe, you mentioned talking to Coach Sherrill, and through the years, your defensive style's kind of been connected with Joe Lee Dunn. I know that you probably don't have just a ton of time sitting around thinking about it, but is it going to be pretty cool to you coach a team that's wearing that interlocking MSU on their helmet and things, and kind of see some of the things that are connected to yourself?
Oh, it's special to me just to get coach at this university. I've had an opportunity to be around Coach Sherrill a couple times, and so, had opportunities to sit and listen to him speak about what it's like coaching here, try to soak up any advice I can get. I certainly hope we play to our maximum ability. If the uniform that we're in contributes to that in any way, then let's wear that uniform every game here on out. But I probably don't think philosophically or existentially enough to maybe go too deep down that wormhole and make something more of it than it really is. We got a football game. It's the most important game on our schedule because it's the one we get to play this week. Let's make sure we maximize every opportunity as a football program to do everything we can to control what we can control to make sure we show up as best prepared as possible.
Coach, I'm sure when you sat down at the beginning of the year, you wanted to formulate an identity for this team, and maybe where do you feel like maybe you've come up short, maybe realizing your vision with this team? What are you lacking at this point, I guess, would be the better question.
You wanna win every game, obviously. I would like, you know, depending on injuries and things like that, those are always gonna affect what you can do schematically from time to time, and every team in the country is dealing with that. You really want your identity to be how hard you play, how physical you play the game, how, you know, fundamentally sound or playing with proper technique and fundamentals. And so, you know, I believe we compete and play hard for the most part. I think we can play harder. I don't shy away from that, right? Your job as a coach obviously is to, you know, teach them the proper fundamentals, techniques, employ the right scheme, X's and O's, but it's also to push the right buttons that you show up with a football team who is emotionally ready to play and compete. And that's your responsibility. And so, I'm by all means, I am a believer in the Truman, you know, the buck stops here. I'm responsible for everything. And so, there's no greater critic of myself or our program than myself. And we got 4 more games in front of us. And if we show up every game ready to compete and play with maximum effort, and we make sure we have a good game plan ready for them, then we'll give ourselves a chance to win every single one of those games.